Jim Schwartz staying put in Cleveland may seem like the least exciting part of this rumored overhaul, but it's probably the most essential. A consistent, high-performing defense gives SHEDEUR Sanders something few young quarterbacks ever get: time to grow. While other teams lean on their rookies to win shootouts, the Browns' plan seems built around shielding Sanders early, letting him develop without the burden of carrying the franchise from day one. Schwartz's presence offers that cushion. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. Add McDaniel's offensive scaffolding and Harbaugh's steady leadership, and it starts to look less like a long-shot experiment and more like a carefully orchestrated ascent. The brilliance of this model isn't in flashy hires or headline plays. It's in the quiet, calculated layering of competence around Sanders. The Browns appear to be optimizing for long-term development, not short-term desperation, and that alone separates this plan from the failures that plagued the Stefanski era. The story unfolding around the Cleveland Browns right now is not subtle, and it is not accidental. Everything starts with SHEDEUR Sanders. The organization has made it clear through insider conversations and Cleveland media reporting that he is not just another quarterback on a depth chart. He is the centerpiece of a long-term vision, and the Browns are treating him like a future franchise quarterback who needs to be protected, developed, and placed in the right environment. That environment is not just about playbooks or practice reps. It is about leadership, structure, and having the right voices around him every day. The Browns are not talking about marginal upgrades or minor tweaks. They are reportedly aiming for a full reset of how they build around a quarterback. The plan that insiders keep pointing to is ambitious, calculated, and very specific. It revolves around creating a staff that covers every weakness young quarterbacks usually face in this league. The goal is to give Sanders a system where he can grow without being crushed by pressure, confusion, or instability. That is the entire premise of this plan. The first pillar of this blueprint is John Harbaugh. The Browns see him as the foundation of the entire operation. His reputation as a Super Bowl winning head coach and his background in special teams and overall team discipline is exactly what they believe they have been missing. Harbaugh is known for accountability, for demanding standards, and for creating an environment where players know exactly what is expected of them. That matters for a young quarterback because chaos and inconsistency destroy development faster than any bad throw ever could. Harbaugh's role in this plan is not about calling plays or designing formations. It is about setting the tone for the entire organization. The Browns want a leader who commands respect and brings stability to a franchise that has struggled with both. In this structure, Harbaugh becomes a steady hand that keeps everything aligned, making sure the coaching staff, the locker room, and the front office are all pulling in the same direction with Sanders at the center. Then there is Mike McDaniel, and his importance to this vision cannot be overstated. The Browns are looking at him as the offensive mind who can unlock SHEDEUR Sanders' potential. McDaniel comes from the Shanahan offensive tree, which is built around motion, spacing, and creating easy reads for quarterbacks. That system is designed to put playmakers in space and give the quarterback clear answers before and after the snap. For a young quarterback, that kind of structure is invaluable. McDaniel has already shown he can elevate a young quarterback. His work with Tua Tagovailoa is the example everyone keeps pointing to. Under McDaniel, Tua became more decisive, more confident, and more efficient. The Browns believe Sanders, with his arm talent and mobility, is an even better fit for that system. McDaniel's job in this plan is to build an offense that works with Sanders, not against him, and to give him a framework that allows his natural ability to shine. The third piece of this coaching trio is Jim Schwartz, and his role is just as important as the others. Even though it does not directly involve the quarterback, Schwartz is the defensive anchor of this plan. The Browns already have one of the league's strongest defenses, and keeping Schwartz in place ensures that stability continues. A great defense takes pressure off a young quarterback. It gives him room to make mistakes, to learn, and to grow without feeling like he has to score on every drive just to keep the team alive. Schwartz's presence allows the Browns to maintain a balanced team. While McDaniel focuses on building Sanders into a star, Schwartz keeps the defense playing at a high level. That combination creates a safety net for a developing quarterback. It means Sanders can focus on mastering the offense instead of trying to play hero ball because the other side of the team is collapsing. This entire plan only makes sense when you look at what came before it. Kevin Stefanski's tenure is the measuring stick here, and it is not a flattering one. While Stefanski had moments of success, the broader picture was defined by inconsistent development and a lack of accountability. The offense never truly became a system that grew with its quarterback. It often felt rigid, disconnected, and unable to adapt when things went wrong. The Browns' new approach is a direct response to those shortcomings. They do not want another situation where a young quarterback is left to figure things out on his own inside a flawed structure. The criticism of Stefanski is not about one bad season or one bad game. It is about the organization realizing that its previous model did not produce the kind of growth and stability needed to build a franchise quarterback. When insiders talk about why the Browns are ready to move on from the old model, SHEDEUR Sanders is always part of that conversation. They see him as too valuable to place in a system that does not prioritize development. The contrast between what Sanders needs and what Stefanski's system provided is at the heart of this shift. Sanders needs clarity, support, and a staff that is fully aligned around his growth. This is why the Browns are talking about a holistic approach instead of just hiring a new play caller. They want a structure where Harbaugh provides leadership, McDaniel provides offensive innovation, and Schwartz provides defensive stability. That combination is meant to give Sanders something he has never had in Cleveland before, a complete and coordinated environment built around a quarterback. The media's role in all of this has been to highlight just how intentional this plan is. Cleveland reporters and insider sources are not treating this as speculation. They are describing it as a dream scenario that is actively being pursued. That language matters because it shows how serious the Browns are about changing their identity. This is not a franchise throwing ideas at the wall. It is a franchise that believes it has found the blueprint for success. Everything about this approach is player-centric. The Browns are not just filling positions on a coaching staff. They are designing roles. Harbaugh leads, McDaniel creates, Schwartz protects, and Sanders develops inside that structure. The focus on personnel decisions on offense also reflects this mindset. The Browns understand that even the best scheme fails if the players do not fit it, and they are committed to building an offensive infrastructure that complements Sanders' strengths. Segment. What makes this story so compelling is what it represents for the Browns as an organization. This is not just about one quarterback or one coaching hire. It is about a philosophical reset. The Browns are signaling that they finally understand how to build a team around a young quarterback in today's NFL. They are prioritizing leadership, innovation, and stability instead of hoping talent alone will solve everything. If this plan comes together the way insiders believe it might, it could change the trajectory of the franchise. SHEDEUR Sanders will be stepping into an environment designed for success, not survival. That is what makes this moment feel so different from past attempts. The Browns are not just chasing wins. They are building a system. If you want to keep up with how this story unfolds, support the channel by liking the video, sharing it with other fans, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing so you do not miss what happens next. SHEDEUR Sanders has already shown enough flashes to make it clear why this level of planning is happening around him. In every game where he's been given a clean pocket, manageable reads, and just a sliver of structure, he's produced. His arm talent is obvious. His mobility gives him the ability to extend plays without relying on it as a crutch. And his confidence? That's the part people keep underestimating. This is a quarterback who carries himself like he belongs, even when the organization around him hasn't always reflected that belief. That's part of the reason the Browns are going all in. There's no sense in wasting a potential franchise quarterback because the pieces around him don't fit. They've seen what can happen when the environment is wrong. Sanders has been operating in systems that weren't built for him. Systems that didn't move the pocket, didn't maximize motion, and didn't use spacing to simplify decision-making. The current plan is about changing all that, not gradually, but completely. In training camp, it was already clear the Browns were beginning to shift focus. Sanders was given more first-team reps, more open conversations with staff, and more opportunities to voice what worked for him. That shift from being coached at to being coached with is subtle but critical. The Browns have recognized that quarterback development isn't about micromanagement. It's about collaboration, especially when the player in question has the football IQ and leadership presence that Sanders brings. Insiders noted how different the tone was during drills. Coaching points weren't just about correcting footwork or timing. They were about understanding intent, explaining why certain decisions were being made, and then refining the execution from there. It's the kind of coaching environment you see with quarterbacks who are treated as investments, not experiments. That tone is directly aligned with the staff the Browns are trying to assemble, a staff that knows development is layered and personal. What's also become clear during practices is how Sanders responds to structure. Get him a detailed install, clear pre-snap reads, and rhythm in the route concepts, and his efficiency spikes. The Browns media team has been subtle about it, but if you watch enough of their practice clips, you see the difference. The plays at work are the ones where timing and spacing are built in. That's exactly what McDaniel's offense thrives on. Concept that remove indecision. It's a sharp contrast to how things looked when the offense sputtered under previous leadership. The ball wasn't coming out quickly. Receivers weren't consistently winning their matchups. The route spacing wasn't built for separation, which meant Sanders was often throwing into contested windows or breaking the pocket too early. These are not problems of quarterback talent. These are problems of offensive philosophy, and that's why the Browns are targeting someone like McDaniel, because they know he fixes. Looking back at Kevin Stefanski's run, the flaws are easier to dissect now than they were in real time. His offense had flashes, but it rarely felt like it adapted to players on the field. Too often, it leaned on concepts that looked good on paper but fell flat in execution. And when things went wrong, the responses were mechanical. There wasn't a sense that the system was evolving with the quarterback. It was just being reinstalled week after week, hoping for a different result. What insiders are pointing out now is that Stefanski didn't lack intelligence or effort. He lacked flexibility. That rigidity is what the current plan is trying to erase completely. When you're dealing with a talent like Sanders, the system has to bend toward the player, not the other way around. That's the entire reason Harbaugh and McDaniel are being linked to this coaching reboot, because their history suggests they know how to build frameworks that adapt and evolve. Frameworks where a quarterback isn't left stranded when things don't go perfectly. The excitement around McDaniel isn't based on hype. It's based on what he's done with quarterbacks like Tua and what his system does for player confidence. His offensive design emphasizes motion at the snap, simplifying coverages, and making it easier for quarterback to read defenses. The Browns have watched that work in real time on other teams and understand that Sanders would thrive in the same model. There's a belief that McDaniel could offer Sanders what he never got under Stefanski, a system that explains itself, a system that tells a quarterback what the defense is doing based on movement, not guesswork. In practical terms, that means more completions, fewer forced plays, and a dramatic drop in turnovers. But at a deeper level, it means confidence. Quarterbacks perform better when they trust what they're seeing, and McDaniel's job would be to give Sanders that trust through design, not lectures. Harbaugh's addition is about more than just optics. His background in special teams makes him uniquely aware of all three phases of football, and that's why the Browns want him setting the tone. He doesn't just run a locker room. He unifies one. For a young quarterback still finding his voice in the NFL, that kind of consistency at the top is everything. Players talk about how Harbaugh makes everyone's role feel essential. That's not just leadership, it's buy-in. And buy-in is something Cleveland has lacked. Too many years of interim plans and half measures have left the team fragmented. The Browns believe Harbaugh can fix that. He's not going to install the offense or make calls on third down. He's going to make sure the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, the quarterback himself, and the rest of the staff are actually working together. That alignment is what helps young players like Sanders turn potential into performance. Retaining Jim Schwartz is the part of this plan that screams maturity. Instead of blowing everything up, the Browns want to preserve what's already working, and Schwartz's defense has absolutely worked. He's turned the Browns unit into one of the most respected in the league. That kind of consistency is vital for a team trying to develop a young quarterback. It means the offense doesn't need to win every shootout. It means Sanders can have a learning curve without it breaking the season. And it also means the team can afford to keep games close. Schwartz's defenses are built on pressure, forcing quarterbacks to make mistakes, and flipping the field for the offense. If you're trying to build a young quarterback's confidence, nothing helps more than knowing you'll get the ball back with good field position. Schwartz's defense becomes part of the development process without even needing to change. That's why he's staying in this dream scenario. Everything comes back to SHEDEUR Sanders. He's the reason this plan exists. The Browns see a path forward, and he's at the center of it. In post-game interviews, even after tough losses, Sanders has consistently pointed to the team the need for structure and the importance of execution. That kind of accountability is what makes leadership possible. And now the Browns want to build a coaching staff that matches that. When SHEDEUR Sanders is on the field, what you're seeing isn't just a young quarterback trying to survive. It's a player constantly calculating, adjusting, scanning for something that fits. That's what makes this situation feel urgent. The Browns don't want to waste that. They've seen how often raw quarterback talent gets wasted in the NFL when the infrastructure doesn't evolve alongside it. In recent match photos and sideline clips, Sanders has looked locked in but isolated. Not in attitude. He's clearly a leader, but in the sense that he's operating in a space not built for him. He's had to adapt to schemes that weren't designed around his strengths. That's what this whole rebuild is supposed to fix. The Browns aren't just changing faces. They're changing the equation. The plan is about getting people around Sanders who speak the same football language and know how to build around a quarterback, instead of dragging him into a system that doesn't suit him. That's also where Jim Schwartz comes back into the conversation. Because while the headlines focus on offense, and understandably so, none of this works without a defense that holds up its end. And Schwartz has done more than that. His unit has carried the team in stretches. The defense hasn't just played well. It's played with attitude, with clarity, and with purpose. That gives the Browns something most teams rebuilding around a young QB don't have, a real foundation. If you're building a quarterback, you need space to breathe. You need a margin for error. Schwartz's defense gives them that. Whether it's short fields, forced turnovers, or just limiting the time the offense has to be on the field, that defensive consistency is a huge part of what could make this plan actually sustainable. And the front office knows it. That's why Schwartz isn't going anywhere. He's the proof that part of the structure is already working. Mike McDaniel is a variable that could make the biggest difference in SHEDEUR Sanders' trajectory. What he brings isn't just scheme, it's flexibility. His offensive systems are built to work with quarterback strengths, not force them into a rigid box. And when you look at Sanders' tape, the things that pop: his anticipation, deep ball accuracy, ability to extend plays without panic, those traits get magnified in McDaniel's framework. There's no guesswork about how this could work. McDaniel has already built a system that took Tua from a doubted, borderline backup to a Pro Bowl-level passer. And what Sanders offers, especially with his mobility and quicker release, is arguably an even better fit for a modern motion-based offense. The Browns aren't gambling on a coaching style here. They're targeting a proven fit. With a quarterback, they're betting the future on. Then there's Harbaugh, the one who ties everything together. What separates him is not just experience. It's his ability to lead a program, not just a roster. The Browns have cycled through coaches who knew XS and OS, but couldn't create cohesion. Harbaugh is different. His teams play with structure, purpose, and buy-in from top to bottom. And that's exactly what this locker room needs if it's going to take the leap. With Sanders as the focal point, Harbaugh becomes a tone setter. He doesn't need to micromanage the offense or defense. That's what McDaniel and Schwartz are for. What he brings is vision and a culture that doesn't fall apart when adversity hits. The Browns have lacked that. And this time, they're aiming higher because they've already seen what settling leads to. They're done patching leaks. They want to rebuild the foundation. During recent press conferences, SHEDEUR hasn't said anything flashy. No bold predictions or controversial sound bites. But the way he speaks about the game says everything. He talks about structure, about needing everyone to be on the same page. He praises the defense when the offense struggles. He owns mistakes without throwing teammates under the bus. That's why the organization is betting on him, because his leadership style matches the system they're trying to build. He doesn't want special treatment. He wants consistency. And that's what the dream trio of coaches offers. Each one of them brings a defined role. Harbaugh leads the culture. McDaniel engineers the offense. Schwartz locks down the defense. Together, they remove the chaos that so often destroys quarterback development before it starts. It's not about creating a perfect environment. It's about creating a stable one. At the center of all of this is a quarterback who hasn't been handed anything. SHEDEUR Sanders has had to prove himself every step of the way. He's walked into an NFL franchise with a history of dysfunction and tried to carve out something meaningful. And now, for the first time, the Browns are trying to meet him halfway. They're not just expecting him to elevate the team. They're building a team that can elevate him. The organization has been clear through its moves and its silence. The Stefanski era is effectively over, and what comes next could be a complete shift in how this franchise operates. It's no longer about hiring big names or hoping for lucky breaks. It's about structure, fit, and focus. The Browns believe that if they execute this plan, if they get these three coaches in the building, they won't just fix the quarterback position. They'll fix the franchise. Tap the like button if you're watching this plan unfold with raised eyebrows. Drop your predictions in the comments. Will the Browns finally get this right? And hit subscribe so you're the first to know when this dream scenario either becomes a dynasty or another missed opportunity.